Generally saving clients tens of thousands of dollars and years of wasted effort. Nick grew up designing ecosystems from a young age and became a homeschooler. And because of homeschooling, was able to have an education specifically tailored to his aptitude and skill sets. That is why homeschooling is awesome, by the way. His mission in life is to equip as many people with the knowledge and skills to thrive in the coming hard times. You can learn more about his services on his website, homegrownliberty.com, and you can also order his trees and plants at rareplantstore.com. He'll talk about all that. Nick, come on up, if you will. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, all right, today we're just going to go over, I hope this is kind of a little bit of a drinking from a fire hose. My purpose here is to give you as many of the high points as possible and to bring as many new concepts and ideas into your realm of not necessarily understanding, because we just can't cover everything in just 45 minutes, 30 minutes. But I want to give you enough of the terminology and enough of the ideas that you can start going out there and figuring out how to implement these things. But I want to start with a story. In the last 4 years, has anyone noticed grocery bills changing a little bit? You go to the grocery store, it's a little bit different. One day I was at the feed store and I bought enough feed for my livestock for a month. And then I went to the grocery store and son of a gun, I spent almost as much on my animals as I was spending on my family. And that was wild. And then I'm there in the grocery store and I'm looking at some of the food I'm buying for my kids. And I compared the price that I just paid for dog food. And I was spending more per pound on dog food. And that was wild. This was not even in the last 4 years. This was like 10 years ago. I can't imagine what dog food costs now compared to human food. I know we've all been there. So, like I said, I'm trying to move as many things from here, things that you aren't aware of and you don't understand, and we're trying to move them up to here. Now that you're aware of it, you can go out and get some more knowledge on it. All right, real quick, these are just what I'm going to be covering. We're going to be covering feed systems, processing systems, fertility systems, and how the loop gets closed. Okay? I'm just going to show you some pictures because I can talk for hours on this. And if you haven't seen it, you can't really imagine it. I'm going to talk about coppicing. It's a stump. See that little stump? This tree on the right is in the summer of its second year in the ground. If we pick the kinds of plants that we're growing, we can advantage things far, far towards rapid growth. We can plant just native stuff, or we can plant hybrid stuff, where it's two different types of willow, for instance, crossed together, and it grows at like 10 times the rate. The Japanese have been doing this for literally thousands of years. This is a pollarded tree. The emperor owned all the trees, right? So you couldn't cut down the trees, but you could prune them. So what'd they do? They pruned the trees right here. And now they have straight limb-free timber. This is old technology. Here's some pollarded trees. It's just a property line right here. And they just keep pruning these. This is for windbreaks. This is coppice. These trees are not harvested for the leaves, they're harvested for timber, for fuel wood. These are white mulberry, and they're growing these for the leaf matter to feed livestock. We're going to talk about insects. One of the big things when we're raising poultry, quail are amazing. I don't know if you've ever looked into quail. I raised quail for a while, but the feed was just expensive. To get the high protein feed is just very expensive, and it wasn't washing out. Yes, the insects are absolutely disgusting, but they're free and they work every day for you during the summertime. And they will churn out tons of amazing protein. Then we got rabbits. These rabbits, I kept rabbits for two purposes: for dog food and manure. Food for my 24/7, 365 security detail that's out there protecting my livestock and my kids. Because when I travel and I go all over the US and I'm gone, I want something big, mean, and nasty that's gonna scare off anyone that would have any ill intent. All right, composting. I bet everybody who's got a garden around here has done composting. I do not like composting. This, no thank you. This is backbreaking labor. If I don't have to do this, I don't want to do that. I would rather work smarter. This is probably the best of these drum composters I've ever seen, and even those are garbage. No. And this, $100,000 to be able to sit in that thing and just drive and burn diesel? Nah. How about a Johnson Sioux bioreactor? You fill it up and you just let it sit there for a year. And when it's done, you've got better compost than anything that you could get from any of those systems. Way better. And then biochar. It's just charcoal. We're just taking smaller branches and we're turning what would be a waste, what would be just garbage on our farm, on our homestead, and we're turning it into something that is going to supercharge our soils. All right, so let's talk about fodder trees. I've been talking about fodder trees for years and years and years and years. This is old technology. People have been using leaves from trees to feed their livestock for literally thousands of years. This is not new stuff. This is not hippie. This is old-fashioned. This is back to traditional agriculture kind of stuff. When we're feeding most of our livestock, whether that's sheep or goats or cattle or just about anything, we're looking for at least 12% protein. At least, that's like bare minimum. Up to sometimes 26, 27% protein in that range. And when we're talking about pasture and stuff, we don't get that. It's very, very rare to get any kind of good protein production out of pasture. So enter the white mulberry and other fodder trees. The most I've ever seen from peer-reviewed research from testing on white mulberry is 39% protein. And it's highly digestible. That is incredible. That is just, you have to raise soybeans to get something like that. But these are perennial. You don't have to keep tilling the ground. You plant it. If you're not going to be harvesting something for a whole year, you're going to be giving your land a rest. You don't have to worry about this stuff. You don't have to rework it. You don't have to replant it. It's there. It's just growing. You can deal with it the following year. Hybrid willow is another one. Fast growth, excellent digestibility. Lacebark elm. All three of these will grow from anywhere in the continental US. From Canada down to the southernmost tip of Florida and Texas. The willow is one of the easiest trees I've ever propagated. In fact, you can use the bark and the tips of the willow and soak it in water and use that liquid, that tea, as rooting hormone. You literally take these sticks in the wintertime, jab them in the ground, and it makes a new tree. People will make really cool stuff for their kids. They'll draw a radius on the ground and they'll stick these sticks all in a circle, and then they'll grow up, they'll shoot up, and they'll bind them all together at the top, and you've got a green little hut, little cool fort for your kids. And it's totally free. I'm gonna have this whole thing. I'm not gonna go over all of these things because I'm gonna have this available for download, so you can read through all of the little details. I want to show you some more pictures. That's my oldest boy. He is standing in front of trees that are this is June of their second year in the ground. They're over 12 foot tall. I'm just letting these grow. We're not harvesting for leaves on these trees. We're just letting them grow, because I harvest the cuttings to sell the cuttings off of these. This is a propagation area. This is what they look like. And this is about 4 feet tall. This was about 2 months after we put them in the ground, and they were about a foot to 18 inches tall. There's the boys. There we have some white mulberry right here. Here's more white mulberry over here. And this is, again, about 2 weeks to maybe a month after we got them in the ground. And that is the exact same row. I have one spot where there is white mulberry growing right next to the hybrid willow. That's the exact same spot a year later. My son grew about 4 inches in the intervening time right there. Isn't that wild? Do you know of any kind of crop that you can grow that's at least double digit, at least bare minimum, at the end of the summer when you want to stop harvesting, at least double digit protein content, high digestibility? This is the hybrid willow. We got on the left, it was not coppiced. On the right, it was coppiced. Coppicing means just, it's cut to the ground every winter. That's it. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. All you do is just mow it down. That tree on the left was 16 feet tall in its second year. And these trees will they'll get 20, 30, 40 feet tall. But if we're harvesting them every year, we're resetting them back to ground zero, back to a stump every winter, then everything stays within our reach, and we can let those grow up, and we can just start harvesting the tops of them. And then we let it grow up some more, and we harvest the top again, always leaving something to keep feeding the roots, right? We're just treating it just like a lawn. It's like a really tall lawn. That's it. Super simple. I was talking to you about the pasture. We're looking for at least 12% protein, right? 12, 16, 18% protein is really nice for most herbivores. You are blessed if your pasture grasses ever hit double digits, and that's only in the springtime. We're looking at 18, 12 on the low end, somewhere in the 30s on the high end for the protein content on the mulberry. It is almost twice the digestibility. It's about 50 to 75% more digestibility. That means, the same grass that's at 10% protein, if you're lucky, you're getting way less usable nutrition into those animals. Like I said, this is really simple stuff. It's not complicated. You can cut these branches and just hang them up to dry in the shade, and you can make tree hay. It's exactly the same thing that we do with grass. We take the grass, we cut it, we lay it out to dry. Once it's dry, we bundle it up and we store it. And you can store it for a couple years. When it's dry, it is going to degrade in the nutrient quality a lot faster. What's better is if we can ferment it. So, I don't know if anyone has ever heard of haylage, where they cut the grass green and they wrap it in plastic and it ferments, right? That retains more nutrition for longer because it's fermented, it's protected from oxygen, oxygen oxidizes. It basically rusts. The sugars and the proteins, they start degrading and they break down and they're not usable anymore. So if we can take these leaves and we can just chop them up, put them in a 5-gallon bucket, pack it down tight, and then put a lid on it, boom, we can make fermented silage, tree silage. And here's the cool thing. That stuff, if kept airtight, 2-year shelf life, easy. So that means if we get enough of this growing on our property, you can harvest next year's total feed needs for all of your livestock and stockpile it. You can harvest and keep 1 year of feed in your barn that harvested directly off of your land, that you did not have to go off of your land to acquire. That is incredibly powerful. All right, we're going to talk about insects now. Black soldier flies. Show of hands, who has not heard of black soldier flies? Oh ho ho! Awesome, a lot of y'all have. Show of hands, who has ever had a black soldier fly bin going? Oh, just a couple? Okay, all of y'all who aren't, you need to get on it because these things are amazing. 40 to 50% protein, 30% fat. That is fan-freaking-tastic. Your chickens, your laying hens, for instance, you can replace about 20% of their diet from just the mulberry leaves. Just the mulberry leaves, 20% swap out completely. And they're great with it, no problems. But chickens are not herbivores, they're omnivores. They're leaning towards insectivores. What do we got here? We got amazing insects. They will take all of your waste and convert it into high quality chicken feed. So we can take quail, for instance. If you've got an incubator, you can take the quail literally from the egg to your table in 2 months. From the egg, incubate it, hatch it, brood them, grow them out in 2 months. From picking up the egg out of the cage to putting it on your table. And this is the kind of thing that we want to grow to feed them. They will automatically harvest themselves. When they go through their whole life cycle, they start migrating away from the food source, which is right up a ramp, and then they drop down into a bucket or a pan. Some people will have these and they'll just have it set up and they just drop directly out into a pan in their chicken mulch yard. And all you do is you just toss your table scraps, your garbage in there, anything that can turn into dirt, they'll eat and they'll convert it into waste, into that waste into feed. If we have meat birds that we're harvesting, for instance, what do we do with all the guts and stuff? Most people compost it, the feathers, all that stuff that you're not going to utilize. It's just garbage, right? We need to bury it, we need to get rid of it, throw it in a trash bag and haul it off to the dump or whatever. No. We need to feed it to black soldier flies. I used to actually, when I worked away from home, I'd have a broken hoe. I just sharpened, the garbage welds they put on tools now. And I just sharpened that bent just a little bit. And I had a hook. And I'd pull over when there was some roadkill. And I'd just hook it and I'd toss it in a bucket. And I'd take it home and I'd dump that in my black soldier fly bin. Boom. I'd get out of one roadkill raccoon, I'd get about 5 to 8 pounds of larvae out of it. Amazing. It's crazy. One of the really, really cool things, if you get into the really geeky, nerdy stuff, is the waste from this larva. It's called frass. Insect manure is called frass. That stuff, actually, when your plants start taking it up, it tells your plants to start making the chemicals that protect them from insects. Insects and plants are in a chemical warfare every day. And when they start getting chewed on, you can actually test the leaves and they will start producing chemicals that will kill or ward off, repel the insects. And if you get this stuff on them ahead of time, they'll already be producing the stuff. It's like if you know you're going outside and mosquitoes are going to be terrible, you put some bug spray on or some essential oils, whatever, depends on how crunchy you are. And because you know that it's going to be a problem, right? Well, we can do the exact same thing with our plants. And like I'm going to show you in a little bit, this all loops right back together. And all of the waste from one goes to the inputs of another. And it just recycles in and in and in. And it keeps building fertility. All right, this is what they look like. The adults look like they mimic dirt daubers. You know those black wasps that they'll collect mud and they'll build it in your exhaust of your small engines. They'll plug up propane bottles, valve ports. Oh, I hate them so much. They're great, but these bugs, they have no mouth part. They don't eat. They just live for about a week. They mate, they lay eggs, and they die. They're not a vector for any diseases that I know of. They don't land on the dead stuff. They just land near it, and they lay the eggs near it. And the eggs pupate, they hatch, and they drop down, and they start consuming the dead stuff. They look like wasps. If you see one and it lands on you, you might be a little freaked out until you know what it is. It's just a fly. But it doesn't carry any diseases or anything like that. They go through their life cycle, and then when they're ready to turn into adults again, they start crawling away from the food. And if you set your stuff up right, they go right up a ramp, and they drop right down into a bucket. Now, you can feed all that stuff fresh, or you can freeze them, or you can put them in something like a solar dehydrator. And you can let the sun just bake them dry, and you can harvest that stuff and hang on to it for the winter. And now all of a sudden, we're taking the bounty of summer, when everything is just growing wild and crazy. Any of the excess mulberry leaves, for instance, we can actually feed to these guys, and they'll eat it. And they'll convert it into amazing, amazing feed for all of our birds. Ducks, quail, geese. Well, not so much geese, more of herbivores. But any turkeys, any of those poultry, any of those birds. This is my preferred bin. You can buy commercial stuff. They're expensive, high density polypropylene or whatever the plastic is. But this is just plywood. I would modify these. I'd make this a little bit taller, a little bit wider, and then I would either line the inside of this with a EPDM rubber liner, or I would use a 2-part epoxy paint. They make it for water tanks. And if you line it like that, and you make a drop bottom, then you can run a cart underneath your bin, pull the latch on the bottom, and then drop it right into a cart at the end of the year, and you can haul that off and you can put it through your composting. So you can make it really easy to clean and maintain, and then it's like an earthworm bin, except better. Chickens go nuts for them. This is what they look like on the right. They look kind of weird and creepy. They look really creepy. But once you know what they are and how to use them, they look like money. That's what they look like to me, money. All right, let's talk about rabbits real quick. They breed like rabbits. I can turn those tree leaves into money. So I can get the high protein, high fat content animal feed that I was otherwise having to purchase. In years of looking at these systems and doing analysis on the breaking points, how can we, I really hate the whole self-sufficiency thing, because we are not islands unto ourselves. We need community. We need to have a more tribal familial network of support. So I don't like the hyper individualism, the self-sufficiency. I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to grow everything myself. And I'm not going to need anybody else. I think that's the wrong mindset. That's dangerous. That's a very dangerous mindset. However, we need to be able to feed our families, right? I want to feed my children the best quality food that I possibly can. I don't want the mess that they're putting in stuff nowadays. I don't want the poisons. I don't want the experimental stuff in my family. Just give me food the way God made it. And so the closer I can get to meeting all of those needs without having to go elsewhere and give my dollars to someone who is upholding values that I don't hold. I want to keep those dollars within as much of the sphere of influence that conforms to my worldview and that is building up a more local resiliency. It's not just for my self-sufficiency, it's so that everyone around me is built up, right? So, we need to be able to convert basically sunlight into food. And because I like meat, I will eat just meat. I don't want to eat salad all day. I can't grow salad, really. I don't like growing salad stuff. I like growing meat. So, I don't want to buy this stuff. I don't want to buy the dog food. I want to grow the dog food. I can't feed my dogs grass and tree leaves. I can feed them rabbits. And I can take all of the waste from these rabbits and I can recycle it back and I can build up my garden. I can build up my tree crops. I can build up the fertility on my property and just keep recycling that and keep building that resiliency. Any of the excess, let's say I have too many rabbits. Guys, it is so simple to feed your dogs rabbits. When my dogs were first transitioning off of regular kibble, they didn't know what to do with the rabbit. They'd look at it and say, "Are you okay with me putting this thing in my mouth? Because these are one of your things, and I don't want to crunch one of your things." So I transitioned them initially by cleaning the rabbit, and I charred it lightly and put some garlic salt or whatever on it. I put some human seasonings, and all of a sudden, oh no, this isn't a rabbit anymore. This is people food. We get people food. Oh, this is the best day ever. And then the next time, oh, this people food is a little raw. And then the next time, this people food he didn't cook this at all. But there's still a little bit of seasonings on it. This salt is great. And then the next time it was, man, there's still some of the fuzzy stuff on this. And then the next time it was, dude, are you gonna take any of the fuzzy off? And then the next time it was just barely part of it opened up. Until the point where I could take the rabbit out of the cage, quick cervical dislocation, it's dead, and I chuck it over the fence to the alpha. She got the first one, and then the next one got the next one. And they would just line up at the fence, take them right out, chuck it 12 feet. Dogs are fed. They weren't fed for just a day. They'd take that rabbit, they'd eat the choicest bits first, and they'd bury it. And they'd come back when it was seasoned and tasting oh so sweet. They'd eat on that rabbit for like 2 or 3 days. So, yeah, fantastic. We'd have all of the rabbit manure, and then any of the excess rabbits that I could not feed my dogs, where do they go? Into the black soldier fly bins and made me eggs and chicken meat. It's fantastic. Dog food stats. I just looked up prices. Low end, the most garbage dog food I could find was probably around 40-ish cents, but most of it was hovering right around 50 cents a pound. That's the garbage stuff. It's mostly grain. And I don't know about you, but I thought dogs were carnivores, not grainivores. Mid-tier, still mostly grain, mostly corn and wheat and soy protein isolate garbage, nastiness. all GMO stuff, by the way. Mid-tier was $1. Top tier, I know Joel, he buys is it Blue Buffalo crazy stuff. For his operation, that's really good dog food. For his operation, that makes total sense. He can regulate it. He knows exactly what they're getting. And it's easy. And his dogs are expensive. I have livestock guardian dogs. They're like $500, maybe $1,000 a piece. I'm not buying $3 a pound dog food for an 80 to 120 pound beast that's just out there protecting my livestock. Chicken leg quarters, you buy them in the 10-pound bag. It's garbage human food. But guys, it's 50 to 75 cents a pound. The chicken leg quarters are way better dog food. You just take the leg quarter just raw like that. Just chuck it over the fence to them. They'll go nuts for it. But you know what's even better than buying chicken leg quarters for 75 cents a pound? Rabbits that I fed Mulberry and Willow and pasture. There's a picture right there of Joel Salatin's rabbit tractors. I really like this design. It is very sustainable. You can harvest the wood because they'll chew on that wood. You can harvest that wood yourself off your own property. You can use some of the willow branches. You can use the white mulberry trunks instead of, milled lumber. No problem with that. One of the next things, we have the beam compost, the Johnson Sioux bioreactor. If you're not familiar with that, you need to look it up. Dr. David Johnson, I'm just going to flip forward real quick. That's him and his wife. He is the Johnson part of the Johnson Sioux, and she is the Sioux part. Johnson-Sioux. This is conventional compost on the right. I know it's hard to see that picture. When you get your eyes on this on a computer screen on a little bit higher definition, I want you to look at the difference between the two. The beam compost is not high in nitrogen or phosphorus, potassium. Normally, it's just wood chips or leaves that have rotted down. It's not even manure. You can add manure to it. You can make a higher nitrogen beam compost. No, nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time. But this is literally just microbial life. It is getting life back into the soil. And when you have all of those systems interacting intricately, tens of thousands of species that even the nerdiest soil geeks have no clue what they do. We don't know what even a single percentile of these critters and these fungi do. But I know someone who set it up to function in a certain way. And if I think I can fiddle with that and make it better, I can pick one or two of these species and that's the make it or break it species. No. I know someone who made this stuff, who made all the systems. And I want to conform to the way he designed it to be. Let's go back to the beam compost. I want you to see some of this info. It's basically, to kind of paint a picture, it's basically like supercharged worm castings. Because what you'll do is you'll build it, you'll let it sit for a couple days, and you'll pull those pipes out, right? The pipes are there just to give it structure and let it settle, and it leaves a void for air to flow through it. And it's going to sit like that for about a month, and it's going to go through a typical hot cycle where it'll heat up, it'll go thermophilic, we'll have all the thermophilic bacteria chewing through the stuff. It'll get hot enough to kill pathogens. It'll get up to pasteurization temperatures, 140 to 160 degrees for days. And that will kill pathogens, it'll kill weed seeds, it'll kill all that stuff. And then after it cools off, you go and you throw a handful of worms in the very top of it, and you put the lid on it, and you basically walk away for a year. And they chew through it all, and you end up with this cylinder full of beautiful worm castings with amazing microbial life. I'm not going to get into all the numbers. Guys, I could talk about this stuff for days, and I have like 10 more minutes. But one bioreactor, we saw that picture earlier. It's just like this Tootsie Roll, right? It's like 4 foot wide and 5 foot tall. It's a Tootsie Roll with enough compost in it to inoculate, to fertilize 235 acres, give or take. So at least 200 acres. I don't have 200 acres. One of those composters will handle 200 acres. I'd rather put more out than just the bare minimum, 2 pounds per acre. But this is amazing, amazing stuff. I want to show you some of the comparisons. The guy in the very top, he's got in his right hand, so on the left side, that is conventional cotton grown at 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre. And that is, we just till it, we spray herbicides, we put out basically ammonia, which is super toxic and just kills soil life. And then after 1.5 years of transitioning to beam composting system, in his left hand, look at the difference. Which one of those do you think is going to produce a little bit more product? The biomass. When you start using beam compost, the above ground, the dried biomass, it's even more if you don't dry it. It's at least double. That means your pastures that are producing enough to, I'm just going to make up some numbers. You've got pasture enough to carry 2 dozen sheep per year. You got 24 sheep, ewes out there. We're not counting the lambs and the rams. We got 24 ewes on pasture, and we can hold 24 ewes year round, and we can raise the lambs during the summertime, and we harvest them in the fall, and that is working. Do you understand the implications of this? We get one of those composters going, and we apply this to the whole pasture in a year or two. The biomass has doubled. What does that mean in terms of the number of animals we can have on there? Like double. That's pretty amazing. That is game changing. Like I said, it's hard to see, but this looks like twice as much as this. This looks kind of sparse. We've got the fungi. There are types of fungi that live in the soil called mycorrhizal fungi, and they interact with and actually embed in the roots, and they exchange sugars from the plants for minerals. They exchange stuff, and they actually communicate. We'll have plants on one side of a pasture or trees on one side of a woodlot, and you start burning it, and you can register the electrical impulses of the sensation of fire 200 feet away. And we don't know how they're doing it, but they are communicating through basically an internet of mycorrhizal filaments. It's like they are communicating and saying, hey, or like they're hearing that this is burning over here, and they will start pumping more water to hydrate their cells, to super hydrate their cells so they can withstand heat. It's amazing stuff. Potato yields. Like, this is all like legit, verifiable, scientific, peer-reviewed white papers, okay? Potatoes doubled in yield. Look at that quince on the right. Which one of those suckers would you rather eat? I'm not a fan of quince, but if I was gonna be eating one of those looks good and one of them doesn't. This one is amazing. Oh man, I wish I had more time. Trees. Trees do not have circulatory systems. If I get a yield sign stuck in my spleen or whatever, I'm in the ER, they pull it out, they're like, hey, you need some saline solution or whatever, or you need these antibiotics or whatever. They can put it in one arm, and where's it going? It's circulating through my whole body, right? Because I have a circulatory system. It is pumping throughout the whole body. Trees, not so. Trees are vascular. Imagine you have a whole big bundle of straws. And the Californians and Washingtonians are freaking out. Got a big old bundle of straws, right? And you got the straws, and they come down and they spread out. And we got some straws over here that come up to some pieces of paper up here. And you pull a vacuum on that, and you pull up some blue dyed water over here, and you pull up some red dyed water over here, and you've got, Democrats and Republicans fighting in a tree. This right here, look at this tree. This guy is in Queensland, Australia, almost on time. He was able to apply the beam compost on one side of the tree, but not the other. It looks like the rest of the tree got hit by herbicide overspray, but it's an otherwise healthy tree, okay? This is crazy. These are on the same tree. These are chestnuts on the same exact tree. The ones on the beam compost side that received that compost are like 3 times the size. That is crazy cool. I think it is. Biochar. Man, I don't... Okay. Okay, cool. Biochar. Has anyone heard of terra preta? Terra preta? Oh, cool. I always love introducing new stuff to people. Terra preta. I'm going to skip forward just a little bit. Terra preta is on the left. This is Amazonian soils. The stuff on the right is a normal soil that you'll find that has not been tinkered with. Okay? The terra preta, look at how black and beautiful that is. It looks even more beautiful on high res. They make biochar. They made charcoal. This isn't a nanometer scale. These are less than 100 nanometers. That is tiny. I mean, a hypodermic needle would be like blotting out this whole image, okay? Like an insulin needle will be blotting this whole image out. It's tiny, microscopic. We're going back to the biochar screen. You can 10x to 100x the microbial activity in your soils by just giving. It's like a big housing development, high-rise housing development for microbes. It gives, and probably the most amazing thing. Who has battery backups? This will charge my phone a handful of times, right? Imagine if I had something with 1,000 times the volume of energy. I had 12 deep cycle batteries. How many times could I charge my phone with 12 deep cycle batteries? Okay. Cation exchange capacity, CEC, that's up there. That is essentially the ability of your soil to hold onto nutrients. It's like it is to a battery bank, what a big battery bank that can charge a whole bunch of things and discharge a whole bunch. It is like having a piggy bank the size of an Olympic swimming pool versus a little pint jar. You can fit a whole lot more pennies in an Olympic swimming pool than a pint jar, right? We add this biochar to our soils, and it's crazy, guys. You can have years worth of fertility stored, stable, not rinsing out of your soils by using biochar. So when we're thinking about like how do we keep this stuff healthy and growing strong generationally, when we can start implementing this stuff, then what we're looking at is leaving a fertility inheritance to our children's children. Judging by my audience, that I hope will mean something to y'all. That is one of my dreams, is to leave an inheritance to my children's children. And this is how we can do that with our soils, with what is growing the food that our grandchildren will eat. And we can actually bind up all the minerals and the nutrients that those plants need, that the animals need to provide amazing good food for our kids. Biochar, amazing. Full circle. We start with the foundation. If we can't feed our critters, we can't feed our family. So we start with the fodder trees. White mulberry is my top favorite. There's a whole bunch of trees. You can start with what you have in your own woodlot, in your own tree lines. Most of the stuff that you are growing on your land already will work just fine. Is it as good as white mulberry? No. White mulberry has been grown for literally centuries, if not millennia, for high protein, high digestibility. It has been adapted over a long time, not GMO messed with, not CRISPR gene splicing technology. This stuff it has been just selected for better and better and better. It's the same way we select for better apples. We plant 10,000 apples, and the really good tasting ones, those get cultivated and grafted onto new rootstock, right? We got the enrichment processing. Rabbits, the larva. Those two are critical. You can supplement, you can trade out the rabbits for something else. So if you are bringing the animals in and confining them to an area, like in the evening, and feeding a whole bunch of the fodder as cut and carry, then you can collect a whole bunch of the manure there, and then you can utilize that if you're keeping sheep or goats or cattle. So it doesn't have to be rabbits. You could have sheep or goats or cattle, any of those that'll eat those leaf matter, and then you can harvest that stuff. It's just extra work, and I don't like extra work. Fertility, compost, and biochar. I really highly encourage you to use the Johnson Sioux bioreactor. You can take the biochar, incorporate it into the materials that you're composting in the bioreactor. It is supercharged with nutrients from the get-go. It doesn't let them escape and leach out. And then it's all there, all ready to go. You just sprinkle that out where you need it. And you've got both your compost and your biochar added at the same time. And then you just go right back to the foundation. Plant more fodder trees if you need them. Keep expanding that system out to more and more and more until you have enough. Guys, these trees will live for centuries. When you cut them back down to a stump, it resets their life cycle. They will live for literally centuries. So your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren can be utilizing the same trees that you plant. There's a fantastic, I don't know who the quote is from, but societies grow great when old men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. That hits me right there. I want to see that generational strength. I don't really have time to get into this, but I wanted to include it so that when y'all download this presentation, the PDF, I want you to be able to look at this and look at the complexity of, we've got our food and fodder here. We have food yields and profit and resource and fertility. If you're not going to eat the rabbits, you can still sell the meat to your neighbors who eat rabbits, right? We can still take a yield in the meat to feed our pets, to feed I have earthworms here, but earthworms, black soldier fly larvae, same kind of concept. And all this stuff keeps getting recycled back and back and back until we have so much fertility on our garden, we have to stop putting manure and compost out on it because you can actually overdo it. And so you'll get to a point where you have to start putting that on your trees or your pasture, or else you're just going to overdo it. Or you're going to have to, I'm so sorry to break the news to you, you'll have to sell it as a profit. I had technical difficulties. I don't understand computers and stuff. And when I went to edit and add the PDF, I see this big wall of HTML text on my editing page for my website. So if anyone knows about WordPress and how to fix this, would you come talk to me after this? Because I could use some help with that. But if not, if I can't get that figured out today, then probably by Monday I will have it up on my website, and that's rareplantstore.com.